Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah ma ba'd. Question number 7 from Fatawa Arkan Islam of Shaykh Muhammad Uthaymin from the chapter of As-Siyam. Question number 398. What are the permissible excuses for breaking the fast? Now the Shaykh is going to list a number of times when a person doesn't need to fast and the obligation doesn't apply on him. He says number 1, al-marad, if a person is ill, was safar, if a person is traveling. And these two are found in the Quran, as the Shaykh said. But from the meanings we find from the Quran and the tafsir and from other ahadith, we also know that there are other excuses also. So the Shaykh is saying if a woman is pregnant and she fears for herself or her child, that then becomes an excuse. If she is pregnant and she doesn't fear, then there is no excuse. أن تكون المرأة حاملا تخاف على نفسها أو على جنينها. And if she fears for herself or the child, then she can break her fast. She takes the same ruling as being a person who is not well, temporarily unwell, then she'd need to make qada when she does become, able to do so, when she becomes, free. Also, so that's 3. The 4th one, the Shaykh is saying here that if a woman is breastfeeding, it is permissible for her to break her fast if she fears that by fasting there will be harm to the child. Number 5, also from the excuses, min al-a'dhar ayda, is that if a person needs to break his fast because he feels that if he doesn't break his fast, it could lead to some kind of harm or destruction. And he gives an example. For example, if a person is drowning at sea and he's fasting, and the only way that he can save himself is by breaking his fast, then he can break his fast. Or somebody who is surrounded by fire. He finds himself, in a situation where he's surrounded by fire, and in order for him to find strength, he can break his fast. Therefore, the 5th one, I think this one is, the Shaykh is saying here, a person can break his fast if by breaking the fast it will save his life, and he really needs to do it to protect himself. Another reason that the Shaykh gives, in order for the people who are in the path of Allah making jihad. And this is an excuse that is found in the seerah and the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he said, إنكم مسبحوا عدوكم أو إنكم مسبحوا عدوكم. You will surely meet the enemy tomorrow morning. وَالْفِطْرُ أَقْوَى لَكُمْ فَأَفْطِرُوا. And fitr, and breaking the fast, is better for you because it will give you strength, so break the fast. So with this now we learn that a person can break his fast if he is, on the battlefield, out there for the sake of Allah, fighting to make Allah's word supreme. And we've discussed what jihad is and what jihad isn't, and extremism and revolting and suicide missions and all of this takfir jihadi notion is not jihad. We've talked about that previously. So here the Shaykh is talking about jihad, which fulfills the correct criterion of being jihad. The Shaykh then says, if there is a permissible excuse for breaking the fast and a person breaks the fast for that reason, so now he moves on to another mas'ala. Is he then required to withhold for the rest of the day or not? And this is known with the ulama as al-imsak, meaning, say you are not well and you decided not to fast that day, and say by dhuhr time you felt better, you took some medicine, you feel better. Are you then required to make imsak? Because you're not fasting, you didn't start the day, well, you did start the day off as a fasting person, but you broke it. So your fasting, if you were to start from dhuhr, doesn't count because fasting has to start from fajr. But do you make imsak? Do you prevent yourself for the rest of the day? Now the Shaykh is saying here that there is a difference of opinion in this, where he says, وَلِهَذَا نَقُولُ بِقَوْلٍ رَاجِعٍ فِي هَذِهِ الْمَسْأَلَةِ, is that if a person, and the correct view is that if a person has an excuse, then he doesn't need to withhold for the rest of the day. So if a woman is menstruating and she becomes pure, if a person was not well, if a person was traveling, and all of those excuses then stopped, he doesn't need to withhold and refrain for the rest of the day. And he gives you a reason why. فَكَانَ ذَلِكَ الْيَوْمِ فِي حَقِّهِمْ لَيْسَ لَهُ حُرْمَةُ الصِّيَامِ. For that day, the Sharia, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has permitted for him to make iftar. So he doesn't have the sacredness of Ramadan applying to him for that day. So until Maghrib, he is free. But he says this has to be distinguished with another mas'ala, which is that if a group of people knew that they had to fast, but they didn't fast out of ignorance or mistake, then they need to remain in a state of imsak. They need to refrain, and on top of that, they need to make qada as well. And he gives an example. So, for example, on the first day of Ramadan, we think that this is the 30th of Sha'ban, so we've not started fasting yet. We didn't see the new moon last night, so we're continuing as if this is Sha'ban. But then an announcement is made that no, Ramadan has actually begun. And now it's Dhuhr time, or it's Asr time, and or it's the morning still. You've missed the beginning of the day, of that fasting day. So what you need to do now is to make imsak, and you need to make qada of that day. And the Shaykh is saying here, لكنهم معذورون قبل قيام البينة بالجهل. They are excused for their ignorance, however, they need to refrain. But this is a very rare scenario. The Shaykh is saying, however, that if a person has an excuse from those that I've mentioned, so we said illness, sickness, pregnancy, breastfeeding, fearing for your life, and the sixth one that he said was jihad, rahimahullah. If a person has those excuses, he can take that time off in Ramadan and not fast for the day or the 2 days or the 3 days. He didn't mention menses, but menses is another one, nifas. And those, he is then allowed, or she is allowed not to fast that day. And they make up for those days at another time after Ramadan. And if they have an excuse, they do not need to refrain for the rest of the day if that excuse then ceases during that day that they've got the excuse for. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the best of understanding of this pillar of Islam, and He allows us to follow it and implement it to the best of our ability. هذا والله أعلم وصلى الله على نبينا محمد.